Good afternoon, problem solvers. Um, it is Monday, June 10th. Uh, Welcome back. Hope you've had a good weekend. And let's jump into Module 6. First, I want to say great job so far, you guys. We're getting towards the finish line. And because, as you know, I haven't been shy about saying this is my first time teaching this class. You've had to bear with me in many ways, and I hope I've been able to show you that I'm invested in this, getting it done right, and in fact, erring on your side in terms of caution when there's any confusion, okay? So let's take a look at SNU Module 6. Let's see. By the way, I was looking online the other day, and I ran into a National Institute of Health from the National Library of Medicine. There was some verbiage I wanted to find from an MRI I had done, and I Googled it, and I came across this research paper and it is posted on, and this is what it looks like basically when you see stuff like that, right? I'm just saying, as you're becoming more discerning in your vetting of information, that you know how to look at something that has been peer reviewed and has gone through a vetting process before it gets out there. So it's not just like somebody's opinion, okay? It actually is based on certain factual studies, science, things like that. So. And I ran across this, and I do check these things a lot because, frankly, I had some words like T2/flare brain MRI frequently seen in healthy elderly people. First of all, I take issue with elderly, and it talks about these different things. I'm like, what is this? And I found out later it wasn't anything to be alarmed about, but research is a good place to find things. Okay. Onward we go. So there are 3 gradable assignments left. That's it, 6th, 7th, 8th. Well, 5 I'll get done later today, and tomorrow you'll see your Module 5 peer discussion board graded, scored, and commented on. I commented on a lot of threads or a lot of posts, and I'm still getting used to that, participating in that with you. I didn't want to make it sound too much like I'm scoring it, but sometimes that's what it comes down to. If you have any issues or questions about that, you know how to reach me. My address is okay. So the 6-1, you got another peer workshop discussion towards 75. Let me know. It's harder for me right now to see how many in your groups are participating. Okay, if you are in a group that the participation is low, or you think something about that you'd like to switch, let me know, okay? Excuse me. I have no problem, dissolving a group and putting you some other places. I have a lot of groups of 3, a couple groups of 4. Let me know. Although, I think we already had a post in that assignment already today. Was that you, Megan? Let's see, okay. The project submission, it's coming up. Project submission, 400 points. Okay, that's the big whopper. All right, that's the one that's worth, 4/10 is 2/5 of your final grade. I mean, it's 40% of the 40% of the total points. So make sure you put some good effort into that. Okay, remember that turning it in late knocks 40 points off automatically, 10%, right? So keep that in mind as we come up to the due date for that. That's going to be due in Module 7, because I'm going to need time to get through those through Module 8. Module 8, you'll have another discussion worth 50 points. So there's 525 points left to get, which is more than 50% of the class. So this is crunch time, and be sure to contact me if I can talk about something, and see if I can adjust the exposure there. Okay. Okay, so Read the module pages, all right? That should go unsaid, left unsaid, but of course I'd like you to do that. The learning objectives page, highlighting some of the things that I think are important. By the end of this module, you'll meet these learning objectives, communicate an action plan to an audience. That means you're going to communicate your action plan to your peers in your group, okay? And honestly, if you'd like to communicate it to more people, let me know and I'll move you to another group and you could have more people, okay? I'm just getting the hang of this. It was recommended I go 3. I'm not liking 3 as much. I think we should do 4, even 5 in some cases. I don't want to overwhelm you, but I want to make it enough thorough. I noticed my next class that's starting has 30 students in it. That's more than this one. So anyways, okay, also defend the implementation of an action plan. So I want you to tell me what your action plan is going to be, and then you need to defend it, right? Because you have to consider how to develop an effective explanation for your plan for addressing a social issue. Okay, that is such an explanation would include clear arguments, okay, about why it is an ideal approach, okay, as opposed to idealistic, but it could be the ideal approach. Identify evident shortcomings. So yes, admit where it comes up short. This is true in all research. We have to admit our bias so we can move on from there, all right? It's not the crime, it's the cover-up, right? Okay, so don't cover the bias, don't cover the your evident shortcomings. Appropriately address viewpoints or positions that may take issue with the proposal. Remember that anytime you go for social change, I hate to be so, well, I'm not bold, but I'll say you're going to piss some people off, right? Because social change can be painful. Otherwise, it would have been done already, right? But eventually, the time for an idea, the time for action comes along, and action is required, right? So, all right. Then you have the importance of advocacy, the different approaches to advocacy, identifying potential opposing viewpoints to one's position. So easy to do, right? Think of the proverbial Thanksgiving dinner table with old Uncle Al, you know, who could have starred as Archie Bunker in All in the Family, and I'm dating myself, of course, but who else is going to date me? And then you got the young people, you got Generation I, you got the millennials, the X's, the Y's, the Z's. I don't even know, man. But, you know, everybody's going to have a different point of view, different ideals. I'm sure any of the older students I have in the class, you've realized as you've gotten older, perhaps in your 30s even, that your ideals and your values start to shift a little bit, and as you get older. Now, typically, I would say, this is anecdotal, but also I'm sure I've known it from some time, that as we grow, we begin, you know, as kids, we don't know, but let's say teenagers and young adults are very idealistic and lean probably way left in terms of the idealism arrow, right? We're very left. And then as we get older, we start moving right, okay, to more conservative. And I think the reasons for that are pretty simple and nothing to be overly alarmed about. I believe that as we're young and idealistic, we don't own anything, right? We haven't done anything. We haven't built our businesses. We haven't built our homes. We haven't built our families. We're still looking at the world and saying, what the heck is wrong with you, world? How can you be so screwed up? And it's as we get older, we start seeing, that's why. Because, you know, you're not going to mess with the hard-earned business I built. You're not going to mess with my home. I'm not going to, all these taxes, all this stuff. And pretty soon, our values shift. And it's a complex conglomeration of things that I'm really not tired. I did get sleep. So it's natural. But of course, depending on what part of the country you're in, what ideals you have, how you've been raised, something, you know how it is, right? Some people reject how they were raised. Some people continue to stick with their own traditions and everything. And nothing is inherently wrong, right? Okay, so still seeing a little double, but whatever. Okay, so when you identify potential opposing viewpoints to your position, you're better prepared to respond to them, right? To deal with them, to get through them. When you see the speed bump coming, you can adjust your speed accordingly and you can get through it better. Now, the advocacy page How do I advocate for my position, especially if people disagree, is so important because the nature of social action is disruptive. All right? Disruption from the current status quo. That is why it is called action. Understanding that there will be a level of disagreement from some corner for every action created is a part of intentionally creating social change. Very important to realize that, right? Some actions are planned with an intention of violent disruption, while others focus on a peaceful conflict resolution. It's one or the other, and sometimes one is more required than the other, right? If you go into social action without being aware of your audience and other potential viewpoints, you may fall victim to reactions like canceling, doxing, and blacklisting. Two of those words did not exist not many years ago, canceling and doxing, right? But we know they exist today. You got to be ready for it, okay? You take on a risk and a sacrifice for social change. You really do. You can go, back 60, 70 years, 50 years to civil rights and Martin Luther King and, the Southern SNCC, it was called SNCC, SNCC. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm forgetting this stuff already. I'm sorry, stand by here. What was SNCC? It stood for the Southern Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. Oh my God. I took civil rights, okay? I was an academic. The Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee from back in the 60s, they did a heck of a job helping to change the way we look at things. They grew out of the Congress of Racial Equality Corps. But looking at these committees and these groups and these giants that social change problem solvers today stand on the shoulders of, right? You get some idea, sacrifices they made, and they did it all without social media, of course. Like, duh, I know it, but I know you know that, but it's something to think about, right? How they had to do this and gather steam and stuff like that. So, okay. Using diplomatic language is important, okay? People get, communication and diplomatic language, all right? It's why diplomats are so valuable in this world. We need diplomats to solve crises around the world. We need diplomats to solve, trade and economic things, all right? It's not a perfect system at all. We know this, all right? But there's a reason why we have the capabilities to blow ourselves up 30 times over and haven't done so yet. Typically diplomats finding a way, okay? Cooler heads prevail and all that, right? So consider that and read that section. Focus on solutions. This is important because people can sit here and we can, I'd say it again, piss and moan about all kinds of problems and whine about them and say this sucks and this is wrong and this has got to be done, okay? But where are the solutions? That's what this class is about. Focusing on solutions keeps people directed, their attention directed at things that get through the complaints and talk about action, talk about solutions. Without solutions, why are we arguing about it? Are we saying somebody should take care of that? Well, do you have the acumen, the knowledge to do that? To consider certain things? Can you talk about a problem, a social problem, and then present what you think is a solution? Am I boring you? Document your action, documentation. It's specifically necessary with contentious change. Anything contentious, okay? I know I'll go for myself, going through a divorce, going through child custody. I raised my sons myself after the custody was finally resolved after 5 years. But it wasn't resolved easily, and the biggest thing that helped me, I would say, was documentation. Documented everything, okay? Had notebooks of documentation. So when you're faced with accountability, you have documentation, okay? And it's the same with action for social change. Document the action, document what you've been doing, all right? It's very important. So now we go into the 6.1 discussion, group discussion. Complete your post by Thursday, 11:59. Remember that prompt posting really helps everyone to discuss each other's posts and projects, right? And if you want to change groups, so get into a more active one, go ahead. I'll move a couple groups out of there, but I don't know which ones, okay? You're going to address the following. Briefly describe the social issue being used in the project. Of course, you've done that. You should know that by heart practically, right? Provide an overview of the communication approach. Overview of how you're going to communicate your approach, right? Explain how to determine whether the communication was successful. How would you determine if it's successful? What are the what's the metrics you're going to use for that, right? Is it quantifiable? Explain how to determine whether the communication was successful. Then communicate your action plan as if you were addressing a universal audience, i.e. communicate directly to your peers as if they were your audience. Sell it, let's go, all right? Number 4, justify the implementation of the plan. Justify it, don't just throw it out there. Justify it, tell us why it's gonna work, why it's workable, all right? Explain how the implementation of the plan would impact society. Okay, and then finally, refute potential opposing viewpoints. So what I'm going to tip you off here, when you do this post, your initial post, and you see this 6 numbered criteria, 6 criteria. Okay, briefly describe the social issue used in the project. The word social issue should be in your part of that discussion that describes it, right? Number 2, briefly provide an overview of the communication approach. The communication approach is as follows, okay? Please don't say my communication approach. Just say the communication approach is as follows. Make sure communication approach is in there. Okay, explain how to determine whether it's successful. So in your post, it's going to say something probably like, to determine whether or not this communication approach is successful will be based on what? Justify the implementation of the plan. To justify this plan and its implementation, the following, blah, blah, blah. Look at it. And explain how the implementation of the plan would impact society. The impacts of society then, by implementing this plan, will be. And then finally, refute potential opposing viewpoints. Some of the opposing viewpoints of this plan include blah, blah, blah. Here's what the plan does to refute that. So you notice I never used I, me, my. I used social issue for number 1, communication approach for number 2, success on communication number 3, the implementation of plan in number 4, the impact of society in number 5, and then the opposing viewpoints in number 6. So I actually have the verbiage in here in my post so I can see, you can see, I can see, your peers can see that you've addressed these things. That's how you're going to maximize your score. Okay. Now we're up on the 18-minute mark. That's usually my time to go. Thank you for viewing my videos. I look forward to hearing feedback from anybody. I plan on getting a lot better. Unfortunately, you won't be around to see that because you're going to get out of here with a good grade and, and more success to you. All right. Enjoy your day. All right. Peace.